Today I'll be doing some modifications to my humidification setup to make it a little more efficient, decrease the amount of work that I have to do to keep everything running like it's supposed to. The issues that I would like to address are one, my ultrasonic humidifiers need to have a better source of filtered water, because the past couple of days, I mean, one of them has to be refilled about 2 to 3 times a day, and I've been using tap water the past couple of days, which is a no-no. So I need to have a filtered water access down here, and the only filtered water we have upstairs are like a couple of pure pitchers, and that's just not going to do it. So I'm going to rig up an inline water filter coming from the hose spigot and run that into the humidifiers to be able to fill them up. And here are the connectors and hosing and stuff that I'm going to be using to do that. Okay, I'm making progress on the new water filtration system for the mushroom grow tent. Here you can see I have a Filtrete inline water filter installed that filters out rust and chlorine and sediment and other contaminants. It's not quite as comprehensive as a 3-stage pure filter, but certainly more effective than just a simple like refrigerator filter or no filtration at all. I have this set up such that the source for the water is actually coming from outside. There's a hose spigot outdoors that I have a adapter hooked up to attach this 3/8 inch outer diameter plastic tubing to, and it comes in through the basement window here and travels along the floor joist before going through the filter and then continuing on into the grow tent. You can see it comes in and goes down and goes back in and comes in, and here I have a T apparatus set up. This is actually 2 separate Y splitters. Each has a valve to it, and from here I'm gonna have 3 lines. One of them is already hooked up, you can see, and it travels up and around and then comes down and goes into my bucket ultrasonic humidifier that's hooked up to the air ventilation. The second line is going to travel along with this one, only it's going to go to the ultrasonic, and here you can see the water reservoir is removed. One thing that's important to know about doing the ultrasonic this way is that you can see here I'm going to have the hose come in the top to fill up the tank, so all I have to do is turn on a valve and the tank will fill up, and I can turn off the valve so I won't have to lift up the reservoir off of it, flip it over and unscrew it and fill it up, and then screw it back on, turn it back over and put it up, and it's drippy and takes 3 times as long that way. However, I didn't realize when I drilled the hole that this relies on something of pressure vacuum to keep the water dripping at a steady rate. So what happened is when I drilled the hole for the tubing, all the water just started whoop, 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 draining out, because it's letting there's an air intake there, so it's just plunging out the bottom. So I'm gonna have to seal that up. I'm gonna use a couple layers of sealant just for good measure. The first layer there is my handy dandy trusty Loctite vinyl, plastic and fabric flexible sealant, so that way the hose bends and stuff, it won't break the seals easily. And then I'm also going to do an additional seal with silicone around there to make sure that there actually is a good seal and that air doesn't come in and it can operate the way it's supposed to. And as a second part of my humidification system upgrade, I'm adding another ultrasonic bucket. And what I'm going to do with this one, it's not going to be in line with the air or anything. It's just going to be it's going to sit on the floor. And I got another pond fogger from Menards. Cost 22 bucks. And it will sit down in the bucket, filled with water obviously, and then I'll be drilling a set of holes around the rim of the bucket, just a few inches from the top, probably closer to about right here. And I have a old computer fan here that's hooked up to a ghetto-fied DC adapter, and I'm sure you can see where this is going. I'll put the fan on here, sitting over top of the hole I drilled, and I'll fix it into place. And in this way, as the pond fogger is running and generating mist, this will pump air into the side of the bucket, you know, and then pull or push the mist out of the bucket up into the air. And this holds, you know, about 5 gallons, so it only have to be filled. I think I've heard other people say with similar setups that they only have to fill it about once every 5 days or so. And I probably won't have it running full time. I think I'll have it hooked up to a timer, and I'll just have to you know, monitor the humidity and everything in the tent to see what sort of schedule I'm going to be wanting that to run on. But I'm kind of wishing I would have done this to begin with, because that ultrasonic humidifier here that holds, I think it holds a gallon. It's 1 gallon, and it generates a pretty good amount of mist. But it has to be filled, average of about twice a day, maybe, thereabouts. And it costs like $40. I think I had to go on Amazon to get it because there weren't any stores around that carried ultrasonics. So I spent like $40 to get this thing that only has 1 gallon, it has to be filled twice a day. And I spent $22 on this thing that holds 5 gallons and only has to be filled, you know, once a week or so, approximately. So I'm kind of wishing I would have done this initially, rather than ordering the ultrasonic, but you live and you learn. They both work. So, let's see how this is. And now I have all of the T system and all of the tubing set up. So everything is wired, so to speak, into place. There we have the tubing going into the in-duct ultrasonic humidifier. And here's the modified Tidy Cat's Litter ultrasonic humidifier that has a pond fogger inside. You can see the tube or the water tubing coming in there too to refill. And this is a computer fan that is hooked up to a DC transformer, blowing out this constant mist. I think it uses about maybe a gallon to a gallon and a half a day is what I'm going to estimate. And this is what I decided to do as per the issues that I stated earlier with the ultrasonic humidifying tank. I wasn't able to come up with a way to get it to work with a tank on top. Like I showed earlier, I had the tubing going in. I said I drilled the hole and the water just drained out. So I put the tubing in and sealed it up. But then what I didn't think about was how there has to be an exhaust valve. So what was happening was, you know, the tank was becoming pressurized like when I filled it, because there wasn't any way for the air to escape. Now what I may end up doing is getting a air valve, you know, like a one-way air valve, so that way air can be let out of the tank as it fills, but then when the water stops flowing in, the valve shuts and it creates a suction again, and the ultrasonic will continue working as it's supposed to. But in the meantime, what I've done is I set up the tube that was going into the tank here, coming down, and I have it on just a very slow drip. So this is keeping the water level up in the bottom of the ultrasonic humidifier below the reservoir, because, you know, this area is what the reservoir keeps full, and there's the disc down there. So this way it's able to run, but it also doesn't ever drain completely. But it's really difficult to find the setting where, you know, it's balanced, where the drips don't fill it up all the way, and then but it still always has water available for it to run. And I think the last change that I'm going to make is I think I'm going to turn this airstone bucket over here into another bucket ultrasonic, just like this one. So I think I'm going to go get another pond fogger and find another computer fan and do just the same thing over here with this one, because that's real nice. It puts out a constant mist, but it's not real thick, so it doesn't over humidify the air. It doesn't humidify to the point where, you know, there's water building up around on the floor. So that's really pretty nice, and that blows it all around and it just runs constantly. And all of this is now hooked up to filtered water, and I can just control everything right here. Here I'm filling up the bucket ultrasonic. This one fills up the inline ultrasonic. And this one here controls the drip for this ultrasonic. And the hose in this one here just pulls right out, so I can use it as a hose to fill the other humidifiers as well. So all this is a whole lot handier. No more lugging water, no more hand filtering, no more filling buckets from the faucet filter upstairs. Everything's just handy right here inside the grow tent. And on a separate note, I now have 3 more oyster blocks in here. And I think all of these are still pearl oyster. I don't think I've had any yellow oyster. And there, the ultrasonic just kicked on with the air system. So everything's running really smoothly. The only gripe I've got is my yellow oysters don't seem to be colonizing too quickly, but I think that might be a culture issue, so I'm going to get some new culture, another culture syringe, and start over. That one just hadn't performed well from the beginning. But that's where things are today.